The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Listen in as your host, Casey Colburn, brings together a perfectly picked panel of guests to discuss hot topics and events within the metaphysical and paranormal field. But don't worry, should the discussions get too heated, our studio's witch will sound her cackle to simmer the cauldron back down. Listen for new episodes of Cauldron Talk with Casey Colburn every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. only on Paranormal Buzz Radio. Welcome to Cauldron Talk. This is Season 2, Episode 1. I'm your host, Casey Colburn, and today we are talking about raising children in the paranormal and metaphysical field. Please welcome to our circle Daniel Klaes, Rob Thompson, Heather Bordelean, David Smith, and Madison Smith. So, welcome to Cauldron Talk. Before we begin, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
My name is Daniel Klaes. I am first and foremost on the Ghost Finders team, and then I own the Hinsdale House, if anybody's ever heard of that haunted location. It's in Western New York. It had a failed exorcism in the 1970s, and we've been renovating that location for paranormal research. I'm an author. I've been on a couple television shows. I have fun with it. It's a lot of fun.
I am Rob Thompson, and I'm spirit medium and host for the Ghost Finders. Been in the paranormal field investigating for just about 25 years. So don't ask how old that makes me. Used to hang out with Julius Caesar, great bloke. Anyway, I've been doing this for quite a few years, 20 of them in the United States since I've lived here. And I started getting into this video documenting, some of my investigations, and then a TV executive, local TV executive approached me and said, look, why don't we stick this on the local channel? And it kind of blew up, and sort of the rest is history, as they say.
I'm Heather Bordelean, and I joined the Ghost Finders back in 2011. That's what I'm most known for. I mostly picked up the role as the editor, as that was the position that was needed at the time. I've also been cast on the show and camera. I was basically just I believed so much in this show and was so excited about the paranormal that I took on any role that was necessary for the show. And today I co-produce as well as manage post-production for the show.
I'm David Smith. I'm not a member of our Ghost Finders. I'm just a normal, everyday father of a 12-year-old daughter who 2 years ago decided that she really wanted to be in the paranormal. So that's where I'm at now.
So my name is Madison Smith. I'm 12 years old. I have been in the paranormal field for 2 years now, which I also got a cover on the Haunted magazine. And I also have a podcast called Spoopy Talk with Maddie.
That's awesome. So my first question for you guys today is, what are your main staples for raising a child in the metaphysical or paranormal field?
All right, so, me growing up in a haunted location, it was very different than I am with my kids now. It was, like when things were happening in the house that I grew up in, my parents would say it was a trick, or people were pulling pranks on us, or and you always just knew something was there. And it was like a big part of my life, where I've researched the house, bought that house, figured out who the entities were in that house, and actually learned a lot from doing that in the beginning of the paranormal field, the paranormal career that I started. So when I had my own children and they started feeling and seeing some of the same things that I did, I embraced them, gave them the knowledge that I had learned, told them, just to kind of be careful with who they talk to or what they say, because it's frowned upon still. It's early, and you never know how people are going to react to that type of thing. So you really have to get to know people before you dive in and divulge maybe to your teacher that, I see ghosts, or I see, like sometimes it's, you got to really watch out what you're doing. So I kind of prepped them mentally to know what I did and where I was going with it. And now everybody is very supportive of what I do. Sometimes they are involved with it, sometimes they're not. But they're all knowledgeable of what I do and where I'm at with it.
So raising my kids around the paranormal, I suppose you could say that, two of my 4 kids are gifted. I mean, they're all gifted, but 2 of them, I believe, are empathically, psychically gifted. I mean, my youngest, Lily, our youngest, Lily, has been traveling the country since she was 3 weeks old, staying, investigating haunted locations, working, just hanging out on set, getting to know the spirits, getting to sort of getting into the routine, since she was, a little peanut. So it's really, it's just sort of something that we've never really thought twice about. There's not in our view, there's no reason why it should be separated from bringing your child to the office. I mean, as adults, we impose our beliefs, organically upon our children, and I think this is no exception. Sorry about the horse braying in the background. That's actually Lily riding her horse Spirit.
That's okay. It goes with the episode.
Goes with it, yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, and she's being brought up in a very metaphysical kind of atmosphere. Also, Dad's a psychic medium, Mom's a Reiki practitioner, and then she's getting to learn all of that, and then the paranormal field. We are so embedded in the show that we both are an integral part, that one of us can't stay home. So we kind of had to bring her along with us, and
yeah, I mean, it's just you could almost make a show about our lives, doing this, making the show, because it's just literally like the other day, at 3 a.m. we didn't even know she'd left the bed. She sleeps with us, and come in and Dad, I'm gonna talk to my friend. He's out here. He wants to play.
His name's Frank.
Frank wants to play, and and Heather turns her head and she's like, okay. Yeah, right. Okay. And then wakes me up, of course, and says, so Lily wants to go play with Frank. Is Frank okay?
And I thought it was an imaginary friend, but then her kitchen started going off by itself. She has this little push kitchen thing. And this is crazy, right? When we first bought it, the sink never worked.
Thank you, Fisher Price.
Yeah, the sink never worked, so you never heard the shh go off, But all of a sudden, we come home from a location, and she's talking to this person, Frank. I don't know where he is. I don't know if he's from a location or he's from the house. I don't know. But now, all of a sudden, the sink is working, and it's saying, nice and clean, nice and clean. And
it happens to say that when our house is looking like a complete pit. I don't know if it's just like, I think Frank is a neat freak, in which case he's living in the wrong. No, I'm just kidding. But it just goes to show how perfectly run of the mill and everyday we have incorporated this lifestyle into our daily lives. It's just another day in the life of a paranormal, understanding, spiritually open family.
Very cool. So now, David, I know that you haven't been in the paranormal field for a long time, what we were discussing earlier. But with this, now that you are, and now that she is, I know that you said that you guys were, she's starting to embrace a little bit more of her own abilities and stuff. So what are some of the things that you kind of put in place for certain measures for this?
Well, I know most of the time we have her, of course, be with people that know what they're doing. Not saying I don't know what I'm doing, but I really don't know what I'm doing. So it's we usually have her with, really good investigators. I mean, she's been out with Dan. Dan was at her first investigation she ever was at. And, my big thing is, I was a total skeptic up until 2 years ago when she got me going to these events. So, I'm kind of learning myself as I go. And I know a lot of people have told me a lot of things, and we take a lot of it to heart. Got to be very protective of her since she is a child.
David, in the 2 years that you've been involved with the paranormal field, what would you say are the biggest things that you've taken out of it so far? I know there's things that I look at when I meet new people and things like that. What would you say are some of the top things that you can take out of the paranormal field as a whole that you've experienced?
Well, one of the things I really know is, truthfully, it is a big family. I've had times where, Maddie wanted to do things and I really wasn't thinking that it would be a good thing. And, other people stood up and they're like, hey, we want her to do this. We'll go ahead and take her and stuff like that, which is huge. I mean, as a father, knowing that there's so many people out there that love her the way that I do and wouldn't let anything happen to her. Like I said, I was a total skeptic, and I tell you what, I've seen and I've heard things, and I'm not so skeptical anymore. I mean, there's got to be other things out there.
Madison, I think one of the things that we love about Madison, and I say we, I mean that we as the entire cast of the Ghost Finders, is just the fact that she's really pioneered, kids taking part in an interest, not just taking part in, but also investigating, wading into the thick of it, and getting in there and doing this paranormal research to the level that she is. And I think, I don't wear a hat very often, but I take it off to Madison for having the moxie, to get out there and do it. And, it's her passion, and it's clearly a big part of her life. And I really, I take my hat off to her for that, and also to her family for, you guys supporting, her passion. I think it's fantastic. And I think it sets a precedent for a lot of other, kids her age and whatever age and wherever they are to do the same. Just follow your gut.
Absolutely.
I know the last 3 weeks have been pretty rough on her since, pretty much she's had to stay at home. She lost the chance to go into the Hinsdale house, which we rescheduled for August, but that was something she was really looking forward to, and it was just like it got ripped out from under her. Yeah,
it's it's sort of really done the same for well, I'm saying for everyone in every field, but paracons as well, big disappointments, but we can reschedule those. We can't reschedule our being alive.
Yes.
It's also a really good time to test all of your equipment and see how it works properly before go out and try again when all this clears up. That's what I've been doing anyway.
I have too. Testing out new equipment, bringing out the old equipment, dusting it off. You know what else I've been doing during this whole thing is reconnecting with people. Like yesterday, I reconnected with my graduating class, sent a message to everybody, and now we have this big giant conversation going. And life is just going so fast, and I sit back now and I'm thinking, yeah, I had 10 events canceled. I missed that I was so looking forward to having Madison come to the Hinsdale house sold out event. We were looking forward for that for a long time, and now I know, like today, I would be on my way to Texas. I would be not here right now doing this conversation. But sometimes maybe it's just a call to slow down and look at life and reflect and look what's most important to everybody, and having this conversation with everybody on the line right now. Everybody's important to me on this phone call, and it's sometimes maybe it's for everybody to have a reconnect with people.
Totally. More radio interviews at this time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's this thing is, taking people out, too many. But one thing it can't take out is our connection to each other and our love for each other, our love for one another and for the planet. And I think that's something that we're really reawakening to as a result of this. One of the very few positive things that's coming out of this is sort of a global awakening.
Yeah, and I really think that, it's making people take a step back from their busy 9-to-5 lives too.
Exactly. I think it's going to help a lot of people that are feeling stuck get past that. So nothing wrong with that.
Right.
So my next question, I've got two that are very similar, so I'm just going to put them together for everybody. What and how do you teach your kids about the paranormal field or the metaphysical field? And so the next question that I'm going to put with it is, how do you explain to children about the para or metaphysical field?
Well, I guess it depends on, this is Dan speaking, I guess it depends for me, like with my children, it all depended on the age that they came to me with it and how you're going to respond, if you have to put it in simpler terms, or if you have to put it, or if you can actually explain to them technically how or what you feel. And a lot of it is learning and becoming your own. So learning or helping them to learn how to stay grounded, to not get frustrated, and to believe in themselves, I think, is the most important thing, is self-confidence with what you're doing, and allowing them to grow into whatever they're supposed to grow into. You know what I mean? Like, I think everybody has a calling, and who am I to say what you can or can't do? So it's just when we go if they go to a location with me, like the Hinsdale house, I tell them to be careful, stay with somebody, and then something weird's happening, to question it or to walk away. That they have the ability to control any situation, and as it progresses and as they get older, you can teach them more and more, and then they just become themselves. They become their own, kind of like what Madison's doing.
Right. And I think with Lily being so young, she's not really ready to ask those questions yet. So we're kind of just like showing her the way, by being respectful and
just doing it around her.
Yeah. Just, doing it around her and having her see how we interact with ghosts, because she's not even at the age where she can watch Hollywood and see what they portray a ghost or a monster is yet, Maybe some cartoons. She's like, monster. But,
Yeah, I mean, I'm very, I guess you could say old-fashioned with when it comes to introducing the afterlife to spirituality as a whole, to your kids. I think the paranormal it's all interconnected and under one umbrella, and as kids grow older, they develop their self-awareness and they start to understand a little bit about everything, so I think what we're trying to do, rather than overwhelm Lily, is just like I said, we bring her to locations since she was 3 weeks old. We've and she's just literally, she loves the cast and crew are fantastic. Helps having an absolutely fantastic knockout cast and crew. So I mean, who wouldn't want to play with these guys? But it's also her interacting for the first time. These last 6 months or so, that she started to interact with others, with spirit. And whether they're attached to her or to the house or their follow homes, it's neither really sort of here nor there. The thing is that they're positive. It's under my supervision and Heather's supervision, and it can only be good. It can only be good in those circumstances. I just think that if you are introducing your kids to this field, that you really should make sure, obviously under your supervision and with protection and plenty of rules in place, just to make sure it's all hunky dory.
Madison, are you there?
Yeah.
Madison, what since the first time I met you at Renwick Mansion and to today, what are some of the things that you think you've learned or picked up on, and how you're embracing things and moving forward?
Well, there's a lot.
Well,
So,
pinpoint
What
a couple.
first intrigued you about the paranormal? What got you into everything?
well, I saw TV shows, so after that, just kind of
You just
was
wanted
really
to know if it
addicted
was
to it.
real?
Like, it wasn't technically that. It was more like oh my god, I want to do this now.
You felt drawn to
thing,
it,
so-
right? But
Did you
like
have any... Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, like, since the day that I met you, the little energetic ball that you were, to today, I see you becoming a teacher too. You're teaching people. You're taking charge of tours. You're becoming, you're exploring more mentally and physically when you're on these investigations. And so that's kind of what I was asking. So like what are some of the things that you picked up on since the beginning? So you've been doing this for a little over 2 years now. How do you look at it differently than when you first started? I mean, it was for the thrill when you first started, so how do you look at it differently now?
I don't know how to word it, but how do I say it? I'm looking for the words to say it.
Is it like a respect thing, or is it like
Yeah, it's kind of like respect, Like, that's one of them.
Is it also like really scientific? Like you want to know how it works? Is that why you have so much equipment?
Yeah, that too. Like, you really gotta let everything just be, I don't know what to say.
Well, I mean, you could say you're at the old Y, and you have a group of 30 people there. What do you say to them before you're about to embark on a tour? Normally.
Well, I'm always like, would you like the lights on or off?
Sure. Well, yeah, you have to be considerate of people's. You have to be considerate of how involved people have been prior. Like you had never investigated before, so there might have been some things that you would have liked to have had happen that didn't or did happen. So I guess what you can say is it's a learning experience, right? Everybody just keeps learning.
Yeah. Like, I kind of just go into places open-minded, so I'm not really like, while I'm here, I want somebody to whisper in my ear or something. I'm just like, as long as I get to chat with somebody, I'm all good. Whatever happens after that is unknown, so.
That's the best way to go into a location, is with an open mind, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question, Madison? Nice to finally get a chance to speak with you, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, when did you have your first paranormal? How old were you when you had your first paranormal experience, and what happened?
Well, my first paranormal experience, I can't say that's a paranormal experience or a dream, because I honestly can't remember, because I was so young at the time. So we have this hallway, and there's a stairway at the end of it, and the bathroom door is right at the end, like right at the top of the stairway. And I was sitting on the top step, and my parents were just downstairs doing something. And I want to say my sister, she was gone, and so was my brother. And so I was sitting at the top step, and the door started to close. I was freaked out, and at the same time, I was like, I'm really young, but I don't think that's how physics work, honey.
See, and she gets the physical stuff from the ghost crier, because they're all physics talkers.
Right.
Especially that Aaron. He rubbed
So what
off
happened
on you
there?
a little bit.
Yeah.
See, everybody rubs off. Everybody, you just keep learning different people, different things.
Mm-hmm. So Madison, I have a couple of questions for you too. We've already covered a couple of them. So my first one that I really want to know, because I missed out on a little bit of this here. But what's it like being a kid in the paranormal field?
Well, it's a really odd perspective, if you know what I mean. Because when you're at a paranormal investigation, you don't see many kids there. It's mostly just adults. And with my time being in this, I'm not saying that everybody is mean, but, like, not at all. Nobody's mean, in my opinion. But everybody kind of looks down at you, if you know what I mean. Like, they're kind of like, why is there a kid here? And I don't really care what people think. It's my hobby, and it means a lot to me.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's very controversial. You know, it is definitely. I don't know if anybody saw the poll that I ran on Twitter before Madison was coming to the event here at Hinsdale, but it was like 60-40. You know, where adults were for children being in the paranormal and 40% against it, and it was like, you're not going to be able to persuade those 40% past what their opinions are, unfortunately. So it's something that is going to that Madison's going to probably have to deal with until she gets older, unless she somehow meets everybody and they can see what an awesome person she is and how much she means to everything. But it's it's just like, it's hard to persuade people otherwise sometimes,
Yeah,
To be honest.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So for me, like, I have my nephew Tristan Keith. He is on my team. He just turned 13, and he's, I think, a vital part of my team. He does so much work, and he puts his whole heart and soul into it, and it's something that he really loves to do. So to tell him because he's young that he can't do it, it really doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of things that kids could be doing that they shouldn't be doing, that I would much rather see people following their passion, especially, good ones like this. So what were you going to say, Madison?
Like, you can't really persuade people. At least that's what I'm not, like, I'm not trying to persuade people.
No.
Like,
Yeah, you just want to do what you love.
yeah, and people who don't think I should be doing this, that's their opinion, and I won't let it affect me because it's my hobby and this is what I love.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good.
Yes.
Well, I know me being dad, being at all her events that she's gone to, there's been many a time where you'll have an adult at the beginning of the event that wants to stay away from her because she's a kid, and then by the end of the event, they're all kind of hovering around her because she's got all her toys, and she'll break out those lighted dowsing rods and have conversations and stuff like that with entities. And it's amazing seeing, like, from the start of a 3-hour investigation to the end, just how people kind of go over towards her by the end.
I think that comes down to knowledge being power, and people making preconceived notions about things without knowing all the details. They're going to look at her and think she's 12 and that she doesn't have any world experience, and she's not any better off than they are probably, until they get, like I said, get to know her, ask some questions.
And then some people find out who she's investigated with, and that opens it up too. You've been with this person? You've been with this person? And she's like, yeah. Like it's nothing, it's just, they're just another person she's investigated with.
Well, I got to say as well that the other advantage that she has is that she's not been, she has the advantage, not the disadvantage, but the advantage over adults or older investigators, because she's not, completely indoctrinated by the system. And she's still, and as we all know, and I mean, this is, I would say, a pretty much foregone conclusion that everyone agrees on this, that, children and youths are a lot more susceptible, to the spirit realm than, just organically, naturally have that ability that they haven't lost through indoctrination by society. They have that connection. So I think it's absolutely fantastic that she's doing what she loves. And it's really important for the paranormal field that she continues to do that. Madison is a perfect example of, and in parents, it's entirely like she said, it's parents' wishes. That's fine. If people say, I don't think children should be doing anything related to the paranormal, that's fantastic. Don't have your children have anything to do with the paranormal. I mean, that's, like she said, that's your opinion. There's no paranormal police saying, well, kids under 16 don't try this. That's nonsense. That's just nonsense. It's a fantastic and a beautiful, very spiritual and deep, amazing world with a network of just really fine people that I think really will embrace and continue to embrace people like Madison.
Right, and I wonder also for the spirit if she gets more communication with spirits than the adults because she's less intimidating. She has more of a free spirit herself. Is that kind of like what you were saying, like being well, she just Madison, have you noticed that when you're on investigations, do you feel like they come to you more?
Kinda.
Yeah.
Like people who've been there multiple times, but like after that, if everybody's new there's like more energy.
Right. That's true.
And I'm just like, back up.
Yeah, I think a place that's less disturbed, definitely has, more energy in there than something that's, people have walked through many, many times. That's my favorite about going to places that were never investigated before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know Madison goes over to the old YMCA quite a bit, and when she takes a hiatus from there for a couple of weeks, Lisa, the owner, will break out her apps and stuff like that, and they're always asking, where's Madison? Why isn't Madison here? So, they're so used to having her there for a bunch of times, and all of a sudden she's gone for, let's say, a month. They're like, well, where is she?
Yeah, and then there's David. He's from there.
Yep, we've got a visitor that comes over to the house quite a bit.
Oh, he comes to your house?
Yeah,
yep.
He comes to visit. He's freaked out quite a few of us.
Not me though.
No, Madison
does he
was
move
actually
stuff
having
around, or do you try to communicate with him?
I was just communicating with them, so I was on mute and I was like, "Hey, David, you here?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like,
she was communicating with them on the news in Buffalo when we were promoting the event. Mm-hmm. She was communicating with David live on the news broadcast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10 he's usually here.
Yeah, do you think he's from the YMCA or? Is he from the YMCA, or would you think he's like a spirit guide following you around?
So he is from the old YMCA.
Okay.
But I honestly count him as a spirit guide because, he's always there for me. I can be in the middle of nowhere. David, you here? Yeah. Wow. Impressive.
Because wasn't he a caretaker there, Maddie? One of the
Yeah, he was a janitor there. And I'm convinced that he passed away in a fire. That happened. Not for sure, though, so.
So one of the questions that I have, I'd like to put out to everybody. There's a couple that I'm going to have for everybody. So the first one is, what do you do when you get scared during an investigation?
Well, for me, normally I would run and get robbed.
I think it's the other way around, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, maybe.
Kind of run away from Rob. It gets pretty scary at these investigations.
I mean, it with time, I think the fear goes away a little bit more. From when I first started investigating, from when I first saw an entity with my own eyes and I ran out of the building like a big baby, to today, I think I would more or less run towards it as opposed to run away from it. So I think, there's always going to be times where you're fearful because we're in the dark and there's unknown elements that you're dealing with. But I think that with patience and, just knowledge, it's not as scary if you know what you're dealing with. So it's just, I'd say just it takes time.
One of the things I love about Dan is that it's like he's got this energy that, and it's just like really, it hits you right away when you first meet him. That it's like your protective uncle. There's nothing gonna get past me. You're under my wing, and so I mean,
I only do that for people I like.
And he does that for people he likes, and he's protected me and woken me up. When we've shared hotel rooms on location, woken me up with his snore, with his reassurance, many a time. And I think that it's people's energy, and I think that spirit hones in on that. I mean, if your intention is good, if you're honorable, and if you have love in your heart, and depending on the reason that you're there, not just to expect spirit to jump through hoops like some kind of circus animal, but you're there to actually see if there's something that you can give as well, sort of give and take, sort of 50-50. Everything's about intention.
Wow, that was probably one of my biggest hurdles, was being scared. I know I grew up in an old house where, like, I was always scared to walk down the hallways, or I never liked sleeping in the dark. But what helped me overall with being scared was just going out there and doing it over and over and over again. Like, being the technician, usually I would have to leave from one part of the building and run to the other part of the building alone, in the pitch dark, down stairways, stairwells, and fix cameras, or go to the base and fix the monitors. And that was really hard. Like, my love for wanting to know about the paranormal and, how it all works kind of got me through that fear the most. I mean, you can ask Ethan. I'm so easy to scare. Like, he jump scares me all the time. But I mean, that's something I'm still kind of working through, because the dark in general scares me. So, but I think by doing it multiple times over and over again, I mean, was this our 60th episode? It's kind of gotten a little easier.
Yeah, and I apologize. I didn't really answer your question, so I'm going to answer it myself. I get scared quite a lot. People. In fact, one of the biggest questions I get asked in the street, something like, "Hey, you the ghost guy?" Yeah. And that is how do you not get scared? Well, most of the time it's there. And I think for me personally, I can't answer for other people, but for me personally, it's a combination of fear, but also pumping adrenaline and excitement the same kind of excitement you get when you set your bait, your hook. You set your hook, and you start getting a bite, and you boom, you realize, okay, this is a whopper. Is that kind of pumping and excitement more than I think fear. In my case, being taken by surprise is something that never gets old and scares the out of me. And that being, poking your head round the corner of a long corridor and, seeing nothing, and then bringing your head back in and turning left, and there being a face there right in front of you. Oh my God. It's that shock thing. That's just like a triple espresso to me. It just makes me want to find out whose face that was, where are they, and why are they here? What do they want to tell us? So yeah, I think the day that I stopped feeling fear and excitement, fear and that pumping adrenaline, is the day I stopped doing this, and honestly, that'll be the day I die, or beyond.
And then I'll carry on and communicate with you.
Well, I know for me, I'm a big guy, so big guys aren't supposed to get scared. But I'm kind of in the same boat as Rob. You'll be someplace and all of a sudden you'll look down a corridor or a hallway and you don't see anything, and then all of a sudden you feel something off the other side, and you look and you swear there's somebody standing there, and that scares the living crap out of you. So, out of all the locations I've been to at Madison, there's only one place that's really given me the heebie-jeebies, and that was Edinburgh Manor, and that I would not go any place in that building by myself. There was something about it. It was a heavy chest type pressures and stuff like that. But other than that, like I said, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's fun, but it's kind of fun to get scared too. Because it's like, okay, you got me this time. I wasn't ready.
Yeah, I kind of get that too.
To be honest, I'm not going to say that I don't get scared, but I've never had a really scary experience except for when I was at the old YMCA. I was downstairs by myself and pitch dark, right? I had my flashlight and it died. And I was like,
Did it die, or did something suck the energy out of it?
I don't really know. Pretty sure that something just sucked the energy out of it. I went, David! And once I said David, it turned right back on. I'm like, thank you! And I kind of just sped walk to the door and went upstairs. I was like, okay, let me grab some new batteries. And ever since then, I always brought my phone downstairs. I learned my lesson that day.
Rascally kids going by themselves in basements with no phone. What a rascal you are.
To be honest, it was actually pretty fun. I've seen David just standing in the freaking door of my office. It gives me a jump. But after that, I'm like, really? Why did I jump at that? No idea. To be honest, I just laugh it off.
Well, it's just like being startled, if your dad would have, if you were coming around the corner and he popped out at you, you'd jump, it's natural.
I don't really get startled anymore, just to be honest.
That's good.
Yeah, I think at a certain point you really start to get very desensitized to it. I remember when I was little, I would, anytime I had to be in any sort of dark room, I would ask my grandma, my grandpa to be there with me. They were passed on, and I would hustle right through it. And now, I've had spirits sit down right next to the couch, next to me on the couch, and you can feel it. Doug will see it, everything, and he'll kind of be scared and have that shocked look, and I'll just very calmly keep doing what I'm doing, because it's kind of my day-to-day now. It's so normal that I don't really have much of a reaction to it. So do you guys have a favorite paranormal experience. So for me, my favorite paranormal experience is actually at the Hinsdale house. I got to see the apparition of a cat, and it actually put a cat toy right in the middle of the doorway where we would have kicked it coming in. So that was my favorite experience that I've had, just because it's very random. So do you guys have a favorite paranormal experience?
Wow. I guess it's for me when, and it doesn't have to be like any one in particular, but it's being around a medium or somebody that can channel, and for me to get something that I think could be a piece of evidence through one of my pieces of equipment, and then to be like, it's like all of a sudden, they know nothing of what I've had or what I've captured, and then they start channeling it, or they pick up on what I just picked up. It's very compelling, and it really makes you feel like you're onto something when you're around a really good medium, and I love working with good people like that, so I kind of like the Dead Files, where you got Amy Allen and Steve DeShavi, and he's doing his thing, and then they come together at the end and they put their two heads together and like, no way, it's like, that's always like the best feeling for me when something like that happens.
Really cool validation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so for me, as you can imagine, over 25 years, there are...
It's hard, right?
It's a heck of a question. Yeah.
That's why I did it kind of general. It's like...
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to say, I just have to sort of pick one of many really favorites, and weirdly enough, some of my favorites have been some of my, honestly, more terrifying. And as a trance medium, I say that because you open yourself up, you don't know necessarily too much about or anything about who it is you're opening up to. So at the time, not favorites, but at the there's one instance, for example, at the Virgin House. Dan, you were there, right?
Yeah.
And we actually did something we don't do it very often, and that's a séance. I think we've done like 2 of them in 9 seasons. And this really horrific individual, just a very big bully, really, just jumped on in, and it was the strangest thing, because in post-production, I had to watch this. I only had the words once I blacked out and he took over. I only had the account of everybody else, what was said and what was done. Watching for a few moments of that in post-production when Heather had it up on the monitors and editing was just, I had the weirdest feeling. It was so strange. It was like seeing your double doing something that I've never done that, but there I am doing it. And it was nauseating at the time, but it was a first for me, having that really weird, this is me, but it's not me, saying and doing things that weren't me, but in my body. So I'd say that the Virgin House and some of the things that happened there, that being the top of the list of them, was definitely up there, and it really will remain that way. Not for pleasant reasons, but for reasons that why we're doing this, and that's research and hopefully answering questions.
Yeah, that had to have been very, very surreal.
It was terrifying. It was really unnerving. I really don't. I mean, there was another medium next to me, luckily. So luckily, there were other people that were watching out for me there, and one of them was right next to me, another medium, and she was fantastic. but yeah, it's very unnerving. It's not for everyone. I'm not exclusively a trance medium, but once spirit knows that that's an option, it takes advantage of it every time. Which is also a little bit disappointing for me because, it interrupts all the other things that I wanted to ask and say. So, yeah, but still a favorite, definitely a favorite. The Virgin House has everything, good and bad. The experiences there were definitely up there.
I have to say that my favorite experience was at the orphanage in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. That's the one I'll always remember because I always try to have it happen again. But there was just so much activity in the basement there, and I was taking a break. I was just sitting down on one of the stools there, and I wasn't up against the wall, but I was like pretty close to where there could be nobody behind me. And as I'm sitting there and I'm talking to the tour guide, I feel a hand like go down my back. It was like it just ran its fingers down my back, and the feeling was like static electricity. It was like, and I jumped, and everybody looked at me like, whoa, what happened to her? And I'm like, well, I just had a hand go down my back, and what amazed me was that static electricity type of feeling. And then, later on that same night when we were investigating, we actually caught this with the flare on the thermal camera. Me and Amber at the time, she was a spirit medium. She was part of the show, and we were sitting side by side. And at the same time, we both felt this static electricity type of string. It was like running string down your arm, but with static, go like right past us. And we felt the wind from it. It was like a swoosh, and we felt that static electricity. And we caught it on a flare. You remember that?
Yeah. We didn't. I think at the time even.
It was this ball of energy that went right in between us.
And then when we looked back at it, I wondered if we caught anything on it. Sure enough, there it was. It was this sort of plasma it was green, so it was all a constant energy pretty much. So greenish and then touch of blue. But yeah, right. it was you can't debunk it. I mean, it was one of those few cases where you can't. Well, there's nothing else really that could have been because it's just air and the air around it.
Right, like there was no windows down in the basement. You know what I mean? Like this breeze just went right in between us.
And breezes aren't circular.
Well, yeah, like an orb. It was really hot though too. Mm-hmm. It was like a really pale yellow type color on the flare, so it came out like really hot too. So that was pretty interesting. I always try to catch that same type of thing everywhere I go, and I haven't yet. So.
That's really cool. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I guess for mine, I had experience at the old Baraboo Inn with Baraboo, Wisconsin, and we were down in the basement, and there is a pole down there. I don't know. I'm assuming nobody's probably ever been there before in this group, but it was Baraboo is where Ringling Brothers originated. And they had a lot of the trains going through there, and they had their main circus stuff there. And Al Capone was also big in that area. And this bar, the old Baraboo Inn, is where Al Capone would hang out when he was there. And down in the basement, there's a pole. It's called the murder pole. And it's where they would kill people. Of course, that's why they called it the murder pole. And the owner that bought the place, he would paint the pole, and the bottom of the pole the paint would come off, and it would look like blood. But we were down there doing an investigation with him, and we had this blue orb that just kept, no matter where we were, it was there. And it would follow us around the entire basement. And when it would get close to you, you'd get super cold. So that was my first ever thing that happened like that to myself, and I always remember it.
That's always awesome. Like when you have the first experience, I don't even know where I would start for a first experience for me, but Madison, I know that you've said a couple of your experiences already, but do you have a favorite or one that really, really sticks out?
Well, I have two. One's really old and one's pretty new, but not new, so. I'm just gonna tell the one that's newer, Okay, so I was at the YMCA. As you can tell, I hang out there a lot. Like, that's my second home. But either way, I was there, and it was this group investigation with other people. And I knew nothing about this woman. Like, me and her never really talked. But I bring out the Ouija board. And I know people are gonna be like, oh no, Ouija boards are dangerous. No, they're not. Okay. Like, they can be dangerous, but it's only if you make them dangerous, if you know what I mean, so,
Mm-hmm.
But either way, so when I do the Ouija board, I do it a different way than others do it. So, one person closes their eyes and the other leaves theirs open. The person with their eyes closed, they move it to where they feel the spirit is telling them to move it. And the other person is just there to supervise and just, call out the letters that the spirit is, like giving out, however you want to say that. But either way, I knew nothing about this woman, and I was naming people of her family that have passed away and her mother's history. And she was like, oh my god. I'm like, So we did that, and after all that, I knew a lot about her family after that, just because how much information I got. So yeah.
That's pretty cool. And yeah, Ouija boards are not, I don't see them as being dangerous.
Yeah.
It comes down to that, having that intent, and
Yeah,
that's pretty much what most of all of this work is it's the intent that goes into it. So
yeah.
I completely agree. That's pretty cool.
Mhm.
So my last questions for you guys, it's not really a question, but do you guys have any advice for other parents in the field that are on the fence about including their children? And do you have any advice for kids that are into the paranormal field?
So, like with me, we have, I come across people that are like that all the time. And again, it's not for me to persuade them to think beyond what they want to believe. But for me, it's just giving them that little bit of information, a little bit of information, and then letting them ponder and think about it, and making them feel comfortable about it. There's been times where I've had to speak with parents. We teach classes to middle school and high schools in the area about paranormal investigating, and it's becoming more mainstream where kids are watching this on TV, and now there's paranormal clubs at high schools and middle schools and things like that where we can I'd rather go in and teach them the right way to do things than have them breaking into buildings or trying to break into graveyards at night or do some crazy stuff that could get them in trouble. And just, try to hopefully set them on the right path of knowledge, with their teachers and their parents. So all their parents agree to let them be in the club. There was a Baptist minister with the one kid that was in the paranormal club that was okay with them, his son coming to the Hinsdale house to investigate, which I thought was amazing. It's all about knowledge. Knowledge is power, and teaching them the right ways to do things with respect. Some aren't going to be swayed, and that's okay. We can agree to disagree on certain things, and you raise your kids how you want to raise them, and and other people, that's a great thing about the United States, where you can do things the way that you want to do them, and we're not always going to agree, but you have to respect each other's beliefs, and that's kind of like the most important thing I say to people. There's no right or wrong way to do this, but just be respectful. Be respectful of people and how they feel and what they think. So.
Perfect.
Yeah, I absolutely echo what Dan says. If you don't, it's like any other part of raising your kids. If you don't give them guidance on a subject that maybe interests them, or maybe that they're going to hear from their friends, and then they have nothing to base it on. So you have to give kids it's better to give, in my opinion. And again, I'm not trying to convince anybody that to each their own. To each parent, that's their decision. But from my perspective, as like Dan was saying, I think it's better to give youths a good, solid foundation about what the paranormal is and isn't, before they start seeing stuff on TV that's based on Hollywood and ratings driven. I think that's really important, just like any other crucial parts of life. And it's an understanding, and it's a trust. And who do you understand or trust better than your parents to explain stuff to you? So yeah, if that's what you want to do, then I definitely think that that's absolutely vital. And you can do that by simply telling your kids about your own experiences. That way you're not, you kind of letting them decide for themselves.
You tell them. Pickles.
Hey, hi, Uncle Dan. Oh, she whispered.
Is it Uncle Dan? It's Uncle Dan Pickle. Uncle Dan has a pickle as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's a funny story. Right, Dan?
Yeah, that is funny.
Right.
We both have pickles.
And I also think that if your child is interested in the paranormal and they're still pretty young, to make sure you're involved with it, or you're putting them in the right hands, like a paranormal group that's professional and is able to show them the ropes. More just be involved with what they're doing. And
kind of like David.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, like does he go along everywhere with her? I mean, that's what I would do with Lily, as I would,
until
come
she
along
says,
with
"Dad,
her.
leave me alone." Then, yeah.
That's as soon as she gets to the event, Dan.
But he's there for her in guidance. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know, as far as myself, my opinion is everybody has their own opinion, right or wrong. It's your opinion. I'd rather see Madison doing this than hanging out with bad kids, vandalizing things. I know what she's doing. I know the people she's with. There's not a person out there that she's investigated with that would ever do anything negative to harm her or anybody that they're with. Everybody has good intentions, which is awesome. I've never met anybody in any of the events that she's gone to that I would not trust 100% with her. And, as a father, that's something I have to be worried about. So I'm just glad there's people like yourselves out there that, would take her under your wing in a heartbeat at an investigation when Dad gets tired and has to go sleep a little bit so he can drive home after the event.
I'm honestly kind of lost for words. It's like y'all took my ideas. Like, if your kid's that interested in it and really wants to do it, don't just be like, no, you can't do it, and just kind of push them down. Let them explore. If they do like it, let them do it. If they don't like it, just find something else that they like to do. And, yeah.
So you're saying embrace your children's...
Yeah, just embrace your children's dreams, If they want to do paranormal, let them do it.
Right. And if you're worried about them not being safe, do the research yourself, also.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what everybody's been saying, and it's not a scary thing. Well, it doesn't have to be a scary thing as long as you do your research, you check into the places that you're going to be going to, you check into the people that you're going to be going with. I mean, because ultimately the scariest thing that's out there is people. So I think definitely if they're showing that much of an interest, we owe it to them to kind of help them pursue it, and if after a week they decide, no, I'm on to this thing now, then that's how it is. But at least you give them kind of a chance or an outlet for trying something new, which is, I think, also important for children's development. All right, so do you guys have anything else that you'd like to mention or say before we close up here?
Thanks so much for having us. This has been great.
Yeah, thank you guys for being on. I really, really appreciate it. I know it's kind of a weirder topic. It is paranormal, but it's also not, kind of.
Yeah, so, and it's definitely a topic that's going to come out more. I think more, kids Madison's age are coming up into this field. It's a growing genre, a growing field.
Well, there's more and more TV shows about it. I mean, there's tons of stuff that 5-10 years ago there wasn't. I mean, you got whole channels that are nothing but the paranormal now.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes a big difference.
Yeah, and with this, like, I really wanted to get a child's perspective on this too, because that actually matters, like, a lot to me. I guess that's just how I was raised. The adults paid attention and listened to the children because I know they valued our input too. I don't know how else to say it. So, and that's just how I am, and that's why, like, my nephew Tristan Keith, he's a part of my team, and he's fantastic at what he does. So I'm very happy that I could have all of you guys on for this. It means a lot to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for having
I think
me
I'm
on.
good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Yep.
You
Bye-bye.
too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining my circle tonight. It was a pleasure to discuss this spooky topic with you, and a thank you to all my listeners for tuning in. And as always, dreadful dreams. Remember, my darlings, to always be kind to those around you, including our friends with claws, fangs, and fur. Hello, darling. Love the show and want to be more involved? All while showing your support? Have I got the perfect thing for you? Subscribe to my Patreon page today, and as a patron, you'll have the option to select which tier you are interested in, with exclusive patron-only offers from early access, live stream chats, shoutouts, distant readings, and so much more. If this has piqued your interest, please follow the link in the chat or go to patreon.com and search Cauldron Talk with Casey Colburn and become a patron today. Thank you for your support, darlings, and as always, dreadful dreams.